Lena Barrett had always believed that loyalty should mean something. She gave her best years to Curtis, 31 of them to be exact. 31 years of sacrifice, long nights, quiet forgiveness, and unspoken patience. She wasn't just his wife, she was his backbone, his business partner, his crisis manager, and the one who reminded him to eat when plumbing emergencies had him crawling under strangers' homes for 12 hours straight. She'd been there when he bought that rusty old van that coughed black smoke every other mile. Together, they turned it into Barrett Plumbing and Drainage, a respected six-figure operation in Baton Rouge. While he took the calls and handled the jobs, Lena did the books, designed the logo, managed the schedules, and answered phones even with a baby balanced on her hip. When money got tight, Lena skipped meals so the kids could eat. When Curtis's father died, Lena planned the funeral, held his hand at the casket, and paid the overdue mortgage. All she ever asked in return was love, respect, and the quiet promise that her giving would eventually come back around. But people change. Curtis changed. At first it was subtle, less laughter, more sighs. His gaze grew distant. His tone turned flat, then cold. When he said her name, it had a mechanical edge to it, like he was saying it out of habit, not affection. Then one night, while Lena reminded him again about the cardiologist appointment he kept pushing off, he looked at her like she was static. White noise. "You've outlived your use, Lena." Just like that. No inflection. No sorrow. Just an ugly truth dropped like a plate on tile. Lena stood frozen in the kitchen, holding his favorite coffee mug, the one that said #OneBoss. Her hands trembled. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at the man who once said he'd love her forever, and wondered if she should fall to the floor or walk out into the night. 4 days afterward, Lena told herself he was stressed. Maybe grief from his father was resurfacing. Maybe work was pulling him under again. Maybe he'd apologize. He didn't. The house grew quieter, colder. 3 weeks later, she came home from grocery shopping to find a young woman, early 20s, long acrylic nails, a dress so tight it looked painted on, lounging on her living room couch. "This is Tasha," Curtis said without looking up. "She's moving in." Lena's breath caught. Moving in. "You'll need to make arrangements." That was it. Their daughter, Kendra, happened to be visiting and stormed into the room, her toddler balanced on her hip. "Daddy, are you serious right now?" Curtis didn't even flinch. "It's time for something new." He walked out of the room like he'd just changed a channel, not burned down a family. That night, Lena packed a suitcase. Not everything, just enough. She sat on the edge of the bed she had shared for 3 decades and stared at the wall until sunrise. Then, as quiet as a feather, she left. Kendra took her in, even though her 1-bedroom apartment barely fit the 3 of them. Kendra, her baby, and now her mother. Lena tried not to be a burden. She folded clothes, scrubbed dishes, made breakfast before anyone else stirred. She didn't speak much. Didn't want to take up too much space. Kendra's husband, Jason, kept his distance. Polite but cold. "How long is she staying?" he whispered one night, not realizing Lena was within earshot. Lena folded a baby onesie with trembling hands. She had gone from the queen of her home to a silent guest in her daughter's hallway. Then came the divorce papers, delivered in a manila envelope like a business transaction. No alimony, no apology, just a bland offer. Half of what was left in the shared account. 31 years reduced to a signature. She signed in silence. "You're still valuable," Kendra whispered one morning, hugging her mother tightly. Lena smiled, but her eyes stayed distant. Each morning she cooked just to feel useful. Each night she muffled her sobs into a pillow, careful not to wake the baby. The final blow came in the form of a Facebook headline. "Local business owner marries beauty influencer in intimate summer ceremony." There he was, Curtis, in a white linen suit looking 10 years younger. And beside him, Tasha, in a glittering dress barely grazing her thighs. Smiling. Triumphant. People tagged her out of pity. "Stay strong, sis," one message said. Lena blocked them all. He hadn't just left her. He'd erased her. rewritten the story like she was a footnote in his success. People from church stopped calling. Even their son, Damon, avoided her. "I don't want to pick sides," he'd said. But silence is a side. That Christmas, Lena sat alone watching A Charlie Brown Christmas while Kendra visited Jason's parents. She made a small plate of food, sat by the window, and hummed quietly, trying to remember who she used to be before she vanished inside someone else's story. The next few months blurred into routine. Lena applied for jobs, grocery stores, diners, janitorial gigs, but was told she was overqualified, or more honestly, too old. She volunteered at the church pantry, just to feel useful. But the pity in people's eyes bruised her worse than rejection. Then one chilly morning, while walking to clear her thoughts, she passed an abandoned house. The porch sagged. The windows were boarded. Weeds choked the fence. But Lena saw it, what it could be, not what it was. She used to draw house designs in the margins of her recipe books. Curtis had always laughed. "You're not cut out for that kind of work." But Lena had endured childbirth, betrayal, and the slow death of a marriage. She was cut out for it. That night, she pulled out an old plastic bin of journals and flipped through her sketches. Worn, faded, but still beautiful. She began researching loans, grants, first-time buyer programs. 3 months. That's how long it took. She put up her late mother's house in Shreveport as collateral, kept all those years for sentiment, and bought the abandoned home. She hired 2 retired handymen from her church. They moved slow but steady. Lena learned to tile floors on YouTube, painted cabinets with gospel music in her ears. She didn't announce anything online, didn't seek applause. She worked, and slowly she healed. When Damon finally called, the project had already reached his ears. "You flipping houses now?" he asked, half amused. "I'm restoring them," she said. "Making something out of nothing. Like I've always done." His silence stung. "Just be careful, Ma. You're not young anymore. That kind of work ain't easy." She hung up after thanking him. Then cried, not from doubt, but because his voice sounded just like Curtis's. Dismissive, clipped, superior. He didn't call back. That first flip sold quickly. She used the profit to pay off debts and invest in 2 more properties. Quietly, humbly. Kendra knew, but Lena swore her to secrecy. "Let them wonder," she said. "I'm not building for applause. I'm building for peace." Meanwhile, Curtis's life started to unravel. Tasha drained their accounts. Rumor was she ran off with a younger man selling knockoff sneakers. Curtis's business crumbled. He started pawning equipment. Friends stopped answering his calls. When Damon told Lena, she just nodded. "That's sad," she said. "Nothing more." By the time she completed her second flip, Lena was stable. Her rental properties paid her bills. She'd even started mentoring 2 women recently released from prison. "No one handed me peace," she told them. "I built it. So can you." She never advertised. Never went viral. She just lived. Then one Sunday at the grocery store she saw him, Curtis, graying, bent, pushing a cart full of instant noodles and off-brand soap. He looked up and froze. She, on the other hand, looked radiant. Flowing cream dress, hair twisted neatly, eyes calm. "Lena," he stammered. "You look good." She smiled. "I know," and walked away. Back home, she reviewed contractor bids at her kitchen table. Lemon oil and honey filled the air. Kendra hummed in the next room. Her granddaughter scribbled on the porch. This was Lena's resurrection. When Damon finally pulled her aside at a summer cookout, teary-eyed and regretful, she handed him a plate of ribs. "You were young," she said softly. "Just make sure your wife always knows she matters." That was enough. Lena Barrett never needed revenge. She had something better. Freedom. She hadn't just survived the storm. She built a life that bloomed in its aftermath. Quiet. Golden. Steady. A life where being discarded wasn't the end. It was the beginning.